Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very safe and well out there. We're of course live on YouTube for our second show of the week. If you're listening to the show for the very first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, or on Audio Boom. We're across all major audio platforms. And we're also now, like I say, live on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. Big show, of course. We've been waiting to really find out more news in terms of Nuno Espirito's press conference ahead of this game against Manchester City before we do a big preview. And I'm glad to say I think I've tried to find three most balanced Spurs fans out there to give us their opinions, their verdicts as to what is going on with Tottenham Hotspur ahead of a new season, which I'm sure they can't wait to get away. Delighted to have alongside me the wonderful Jason McGovern's back with us. Jace, how are you?
I'm really well. I'm just looking at the Premier League table, and Arsenal are currently bottom of the league. What a wonderful table! And if the season can end now, they're finally relegated. So what a fantastic season's in store.
I tell you what, if it can carry on like that, I'm looking forward to it already. Absolutely also delighted to welcome back to the show. It's been a while, and he's here from the wonderful Dr. Tottenham podcast. The wonderful Vas Cohn is with us. Vas, I know it's been a while. How are you?
I'm all good, thanks, Ricky. Nice to be back with you fellas again. It's been a while,
nice to have you on.
Always in our hearts, that's for sure.
Oh, I must say, John, I listen, Vas, to your podcast every single week, and I do absolutely love it. So if you haven't checked out the Dr. Tottenham podcast, make sure you add that to your list. Great pod. Great guys, great banter, and great humour on there. You need it being a Spurs fan. So, like I say, great to have Vas back on the
Thanks,
show.
Rick.
And also delighted to welcome the wonderful Adam Osper to the Last Word on Spurs. Ads, we had him over the summer. And he's back to all things Tottenham. Ads, how are you?
I'm all good. Sorry, my son at the same time is watching it on YouTube. He's 9.5 and he's calling me to tell me he can see me. I'm all good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Our pleasure, Ads. But like I say, it's been fair to say a crazy, chaotic summer at Tottenham. You know, as Spurs, it's never dull, never quiet. I think even for Spurs, that they didn't hire a manager for over 72 days. We finally get one. And then alongside that, just the Harry Kane saga has just blew this summer apart. And I know it's a case where Harry Kane, that saga can go into overkill. So we're not going to go too crazy about it. But I do want to start first, you guys, with pre-season. I mean, listen, we've got Man City to come, of course, on the weekend. First game of the season. Couldn't get any more tougher to come. But for Nuno, it's going to be his first competitive match in charge. Jay, let's come to you. How have you found Nuno's pre-season with Tottenham? Have you been happy overall by how the team have played? Can we read anything into that ahead of Man City to come at the weekend?
I think the thing that I've tried to look for is to find out if we're going to go with a flat back four or we're going to play with Reguilón and somebody else as a wing back, probably Doherty. Which you feel like with Reguilón and Doherty, we're more suited to play with wing backs. But with no real centre halves available pre-season other than Eric Dier, it's very difficult to go with three centre halves if you simply haven't got three centre halves around. So I'm still not quite sure as the season progresses what we'll do. But I think we've tried to get on the front foot as much as possible, which against Chelsea was always hard. I mean, there was lots of comments or criticism in the Chelsea game, but they're European champions and we finished 7th. And we never go and get a result at Stamford Bridge. So, I wouldn't go too far there. I think last week was a better parameter for us, if you like, to see where we were. I think the form of Lucas Moura pre-season has looked good, particularly with assisting goals rather than just running through individual challenges and scoring them. Bergwijn's worked hard. Sonny's come back. Doesn't look like he's been away whatsoever. So from that point of view, it's looked good. Højbjerg's slipped back into it last week, didn't he? And put the fear of Christ up to Arteta. Eric Dier looked quite good last week, but we know you can have one good game, one bad game. So I think from pre-season, we probably see, I think it's probably 9 of the starters for the weekend. We just don't know whether we'll have a striker up front, and we don't yet know whether it will be Doherty, Tanganga. It wouldn't even surprise me if Aurier plays at the weekend. So I think you can get a feel for how we'll set up the first few weeks, but we'll see if he sticks with that system once that transfer window shuts, and perhaps he's brought in 1 or 2 other players that he wants.
That's come over to you. Normally pre-season we'd probably be away on a tour overseas. Obviously it's all changed with the COVID situation that we find ourselves in. What's been your thoughts, Vas, on playing the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal in these pre-season games? Do you think it's been a good test, or would you prefer to maybe go and play overseas opposition?
It's always difficult lining up against, 2 of your fiercest rivals in pre-season. It's not really something that you generally do, or from a fan point of view, want to see, because it can sort of kickstart all sorts of hoodoos and emotions and superstitions and all this kind of stuff. But as it's turned out, the 2 games against Arsenal and Chelsea have worked well for us. Admittedly, the Chelsea game was influenced more by the result more than the performance in terms of how we feel as fans. But as Jace just said, the second game against Arsenal last week, I think the performance gave us some encouragement, and he's quite right. We've seen quite a few of the players get their fitness and look ready for the season, which I think was the most important aspect of all.
Totally agree. And that's coming over to you. I mean, like I said there to Vass, it's been such a bit of a difficult pre-season in terms of normally, like I say, we'd probably have more of a scheduled plan, more of different opposition to test us in different ways. Playing Arsenal and Chelsea, I've found it's been certain parts of the game quite high intensity, which in one way might suit us for these early games to come. Because, like I say, to be fair, when you look at our opening fixtures, we've been dealt quite a tough card, I can probably say. And maybe I'm being biased being a Spurs fan. But overall, Ed, could you have seen an identity coming with Tottenham under Nuno? Or is it too early to go down that route?
I think it's quite early, because the really early games, there are generally kids playing. And then the more experienced players, as generally as pre-season goes on, that they start introducing them. I suppose I think the thing for me, which has been interesting, and I don't pay too much attention to pre-season, because the last time I got excited about pre-season was under Juan de Ramos. I think we won every single game, didn't we? And then I think we got 2 points from 9 games, which was Harry's favourite line for the next 3 years. But under Nuno, under Wolves, and what I've seen in pre-season is they were always really good in the second half. They would often be really slow starters in the first half, which isn't obviously a great thing, but they massively improved and ended games well. And I think from pre-season, there has been that theme that in the second half, we've looked strong and finished well. And, amongst the many criticisms from last season was we generally ended games horrifically and conceded however many goals we did late. So I think that's probably one of the most important signs. And I think it's been spoken about is the fitness later in the games, which is important.
Overall, Ed, so far with Nuno, you've been quite impressed because, let's be honest about it, 70 days later, after we've scoured the whole Europe for a manager, an interesting managerial search, to say the least.
Yeah, a lot of it was, I'm sure a lot of it was just nonsense, and you get caught up in it. It was like this one's in, that one's in, this one's out, that one's out, this one's advanced, and all of that nonsense that comes along with it. I think listening to him talk to like the Spurs channels compared to how we spoke in the press conference, and because I was on this today, I watched the whole press conference, he was very short with the media today. I don't know if you noticed that. And I read that about him, that he was very...
he's like that.
He's very controlled with his answers. He gives very little away. He just gives little sound bites out. Whereas when he's spoken on anything officially with Spurs, you've maybe seen a bit more about him. There was negativity when he got appointed. I always really thought Wolves were a great team to watch. People said they were really defensive and negative, but I always thought they were quite an exciting team, and he did a good job. I'm intrigued to see how it goes.
It's funny as you say that, because with Nuno, every time a new manager kept getting put our way, I thought, no. And to be honest, when Nuno first was linked, I wasn't completely against it. I've got to be honest, because, in the first couple of seasons with Wolves, I thought they looked quite organised. They looked good on the break. And I thought, well, do you know what? Give him better players. And, he might get a tune out of them. I've been quite impressed with the way he's always come across. I think he comes across as quite an honourable guy. I think, like you said, he is very straight. He is very short with the media. I think that's one thing where I don't think you're going to get somebody that gives you the romantic appeal like Pochettino did to the camera. No. I don't think he's that kind of manager. I think he will embrace the football club. He will show pride. He will ask the players to play for the club. But so far, listen, it's difficult to judge a guy when you've only seen pre-season. But that's the early indicators. Are you feeling warm to this guy at the moment? Sorry, was that to me or Vaz? We'll go to Vaz and we'll come back to you, Ed.
Sorry, Vaz. Sorry.
That's all right, mate. Listen, Nuno's always been a good speaker. I remember a couple of seasons back, I always felt like he he looks like the kind of manager you'd like to have at your club. I think a lot of Spurs fans were kind of influenced by Wolves' most recent season, which you have to be mindful that Nuno lost a lot of good players last season at Wolves. He lost Jota to Liverpool. Jimenez had a horrific injury. He lost Podence to injury. I mean, most of his attacking players and some other players were out because of injuries. And I think ultimately he just played because this is how he could play with the tools at his disposal. So I think that kind of influenced a lot of Spurs fans when he first came in. But I think as time has gone on, I think most Spurs fans are just relieved not to have the drama and the toxicity that was attached to Jose Mourinho. And there's a calmness and a methodical kind of approach from Nuno that sort of reminds us a little bit of Pochettino, but Nuno's his own man. And he's kind of winning the fans over, I think. I think there's a lot to be positive about.
Jace, it's fair to say with Jose Mourinho, I think you kind of made your feelings quite clear. So I feel like any appointment after Mourinho is always going to be a high. But at one point, I've got to be honest with you, Jace, at one point, when I saw Gattuso's name being linked, I thought even Jace is not going to stand for this over Mourinho. Bearing in mind, Jace, we've had pre-season, we've had a look at the guys so far, and we've seen a couple of press conferences. What's your first instant reaction to him at the moment going into Sunday?
Well, it's difficult because he wasn't on the top of my list for sure. I did struggle a little bit with Wolves. I find that, first halves of game, I think Adam's right. They're very passive, I think, in the first. A hell of a lot of 0-0s at half time with Wolves in both seasons. They don't really look to dominate a game. They want to play counter-attack as much as anything. And that, the style of football for me is so important at Tottenham that we get on the front foot at home and we look to dominate games. That for me is there's no negotiation with that. We must play that way. And after that, then what happens, I can live with. But to watch us playing Fulham, for instance, last year at home, a team in the bottom three, and we're sitting back holding on to a 1-0 lead. I don't care if you win that game. I don't want to see Tottenham playing that way. So I was a bit concerned with Nuno, but I was always impressed with Nuno when I saw him at Wolves and how he handled things. He wasn't one of these people that seem to hide behind referees as an excuse and things like that. I think he's a really honourable person. And now he's got the job. I hope he does really well. I think perhaps the problem with, you were right, Ricky, with the manager was every single name that was linked was, no, we don't want him, we don't want him, and we don't want him. And when somebody would say to me, who do you want? Other than Pochettino's name, and I'm not even sure I wanted Poch back. I thought, do you know what? As long as Mourinho goes, I don't really know who I want. And that was part of the problem. So Nuno's got the job. I wish him well. I'm a little bit, when I see him in, I don't know, I think with the whole Kane scenario, I'm a little bit concerned that perhaps he's not getting all the information that he should be getting. And I get that horrid feeling when I see Paratici sitting on the bench at games and things like that. I think, is Nuno really just the glorified coach? And I hope Nuno does have influence who comes into the club. And I hope we do give him the genuine tools to be able to, because he will be judged on the results, Nuno. And so he must have a say in that squad to get him those results. And I hope Paratici's not just going out signing players willy-nilly and poor old Nuno will be gone in 12 months' time. That's my fear. But he's an honourable guy. Just, I want to see the bloke work and give him the chance to get on with it now.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest about it. It's fair to say that coming to a club where, he knows he's not number one, he's had to come in and deal with Spurs is arguably one of the best strikers I've ever had in Harry Kane. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. He's one of the best strikers I've ever had, definitely in my lifetime anyway. He's dealing with a situation where clearly the player wants out. And that's difficult for any manager to come into that situation. And I say manager, he's a head coach. So that title in itself tells you that there isn't an element of full control to his remit. Coming to you, Ads, how difficult is that for him to come in from day one? He's trying to deal with this Harry Kane situation whilst he's trying to get the best out of the players that he's got. And let's not beat around the bush here. We know that transfer-wise, we're not finished yet. There's still a lot that needs to be done. Do you reckon he's feeling ready going into Man City at the weekend?
Yeah, I think he would be well aware of the Kane situation when he joined the club, when he was about to join the club. It would have been one of the things that would have been discussed in detail. And I'm sure he knows everything that's going on. I think Spurs have always had this, even when Pochettino was the manager, the season he left, he came out and goes, I'm not really the manager, I'm just the head coach. They've always had this sort of head coach thing. I think the director of football, whose name I always get wrong, Tracy, whatever it is, I think he seems to be doing a good job of getting some decent players in with his contacts and shifting stuff out. And it looks like Levy's got less influence there in maybe the negotiations, the things are moving quicker. I think Nuno said something today, which I think is probably how he works. You can only deal with what you can do. He can only train the players he's got. If Kane hasn't been there until this week, the players are the players. That's all he's got. There's not much else he can do. I'm sure he doesn't sit there watching Sky Sports News and reading all the articles. He probably just gets on with it. And you can see that by the way they've lined up with Son playing through the middle as well. So, which he almost said in the press conference, that's where he sees him playing anyway. So, and actually, I had this conversation when you look at how Nuno has played, where they have played on the counter and stuff like that, and that fast attacking sort of football. When they do break, when Kane has been injured for Spurs, and when we did do well in that Champions League run, that's how we played, and we were very successful at it.
It is interesting when you think about this particular game. I mean, Jason had a question here on the screen. We're going to do City a bit later, but you're more than to answer that. That's from Sean Hurwell. Says, Jason, do you think we can go to City and dominate, really? They'll cut us to ribbons if we do that.
I think I said that I don't want to see a Tottenham side play a team in the bottom three like Fulham, go 1-0 up and hold on to it. I don't think I was saying anything about Manchester City. But there is no reason why we have to sit and dread Manchester City, because their players are undercooked, seriously undercooked. I mean, we're talking about Kane, Bukayo Saka's only on the bench tonight. Stones hasn't kicked a ball. Walker hasn't kicked a ball. Gabriel Jesus hasn't kicked a ball. There's no Kevin De Bruyne. There's no Phil Foden. We sat back and never tried to lay a glove on them in the League Cup final. And what happened? We did absolutely nothing and they beat us. So you might as well try and get on the front foot and give them problems. And we have done that in the past. We went to Manchester City a couple of years ago and scored 3, didn't we, on a Champions League night?
We did.
By playing on the front foot.
Yeah.
We went and won under Pochettino there with when Eriksen went through in the last minute by playing on the front foot. I think Guardiola's very first game in English, first defeat in English football was with the fantastic Sergio Aguero side. They came to Tottenham. We played on the front foot. We were 2-0 up in 15 minutes and we won the game. So you can play on the front foot against Manchester City. You can do it. If you're brave, you've got to take risks. But if you just sit back and let Manchester City dominate a game, it's going to be very difficult to do that. So I think Manchester City are undercooked, and your chance is to have a go. Have a real go at them.
Yeah. We've got another question in here. We've got an interesting one there from Thomas Abraham. I don't know if we can say all of that, but Brentford 1-0, let's do the same, go for the throat. I think he's gone for more than the throat on that comment there, but we'll let the YouTube viewers give that one a read. Let's go to this one here. This is from Bob Spur TV, who says, big up, lads. Does the higher press game we've played in the friendlies even suit Kane, or is he just too good a player not to have the team built around him? Okay, should we go there? We'll go there now, just because I think with the Kane segment, it's got a case where this could derail any show, even our season in general. So we'll go there now and try and dissect where we are with the Harry Kane situation. So for those obviously who have seen Nuno Espirito's press conference today, I think it's fair to say that very non-committal in terms of Kane playing at the weekend. He says a decision will be made tomorrow. Vas, let's come to you on Harry Kane. Listen, we've heard what you've said at length. If you haven't heard it already on the Dr. Tottenham podcast, great pull out to say Vas has had his say on there already. But Vas, for those that haven't listened to that, on the Harry Kane saga, where are you?
I'm disappointed is where I am right now with the whole way this whole thing has materialised. Now, there's no questioning that Harry Kane is a great player, and I really wanted him to spend his time at Spurs and break Greaves' record because he was on target for that. And in my mind, he'd have been a bigger legend doing that than just joining a team that's going to end up just winning another medal. for the sake of a medal. He'll live on long in the memory of every Spurs fan if he's stuck around. But this whole scenario of the last couple of weeks, very, very disappointing. The silence from him was kind of deafening originally, and then he issued that statement about 4 days after he should have supposedly turned up for training. He didn't say anything, the club didn't say anything, and it just gave the impression to all the Spurs fans that something's not right. And I think that's fueled a lot of emotions, and fans are quite rightly getting really tired with this whole saga. I think if he's going to go, then we need a proper bid from Manchester City, because ultimately at this moment in time, Man City are just kind of toying with us in some respects. And I think if I was Harry Kane, I'd be a bit peeved with them, because if they really want him, they should stump up the cash to buy him, or they should just go away. And it's been very unsettling, I think. So, yeah, I'm not happy with the situation. Obviously, I'd like him to stay. With 3 years on his contract, Spurs are holding all the cards, really. And there's no reason why we should sell him. But the longer we have this inactivity, then the worse it's gonna get. So we just need a resolution, and we need it very quickly.
Yeah, I mean,
just on that, Vass, my disappointment was that he chose to go on the Gary Neville programme and start the whole thing off. And that was
unauthorised. We have to say by the club, unauthorised. No one knew he was doing that. No one knew it was coming.
Before the season ended. You know, we were still playing Leicester. And I think the snips came out before we played Aston Villa, didn't they? And
yeah,
that's right.
Like the little trailer, and then between
and there's no coincidence, Jason. You're going to say this as well. There's no coincidence. We were absolutely abysmal, as was Kane on that day, and that definitely rocked the camp. 100%.
He volunteered to do that TV program, and he would have probably been able to say to Gary Neville, "No, I don't want that in there," or "I can't talk about that." But the fact that he was quite openly talking about it, he valued himself when he said, well, if the chairman gets 100 million, he might want to sell me. And, lo and behold, Manchester City bid 100 million. From the Gary Neville thing onwards, that to me is when it, should never have happened. And I was really critical of Danny Rose a couple of years ago when he did his Sun article. Really, really critical. And I can't be hypocritical now and not criticise Kane for effectively doing the same thing. It should be done in-house. It shouldn't be done on a TV or a media station away from the club. It should never have come to that stage. The conversation should be in-house, and that's it.
But even in that interview, Jace, he was saying to Gary Neville,
didn't he? I want to play with De Bruyne.
Well, yeah, but he also said there's a conversation to be had in the summer, right? So if all it is a conversation, then have it with the chairman and move on.
Exactly.
Don't be staying in Florida where COVID is rife and delaying coming back to the UK and making out in the end that, you were going to come back on that day all along. All the other England players had reported a week earlier. So there was nothing to say that Harry Kane had been allowed an extra week or anything like that. And that just added fuel to the fire.
As has come to you, I think I just want to make it a reference that obviously you do work alongside and you have connections with football agents. So I have to ask you from an agent perspective, watching this unfold from the start of the summer to where we are now, are you not staggered when I say Harry Kane? I think he's a father of three. He's late 20s, intelligent guy. Whenever he's spoken, I thought, this guy speaks well. The brand of Harry Kane for me, you look at him, England captain, Tottenham Hotspur vice captain. He's a leader. Whenever he's spoken, I think he's spoken with conviction, speaks with real pride. I am stunned that we're recording here on the 13th of August and we've not had one statement from him when I say in person over video to just say where we're at. Because if anything, and tell me what you think, Ads, that the statement that went out on his Twitter account, I think that even added more fuel to the fire. For me, that didn't give us any clarity as Tottenham fans as to what he wants to do, which is obviously evidently clear he wants to move. But what's your take on it?
I mean, I don't think that. So I mean, there are a couple of things. I think I don't think you could ever expect him to come out and say, "I want to go," because he's never going to do that, because it might not happen. Man City, as Vaz said, they might not. If he came out and did a video and goes, "Look, guys, you know, I love Spurs, but it's time to move on because I want to win stuff. And it doesn't happen. That will never happen. And you'll never be advised to do that. That will be a last chance saloon. The bit about the legend status, he'll always be a legend. You know, Berbatov gets a massive reception now. Bale came back and he down tools before he left. And Sheringham left and got booed and then came back and so did Modric. So I don't think he's always going to be a legend. I don't hold it against him for wanting to go and win. I completely disagree because I work with a couple of the guys at Man City when people state, oh, it is the trophies don't really mean anything. It's not true. They do. They love it. They're not going to sit back at the end of their career and go, well, because we spent a lot of money, we won everything. They're going to sit back and say, you know, we won. I've got one guy who's got 3 Premier League titles, 4 League Cups and an FA Cup. He doesn't sit there and go, well, they paid a lot of money for that. So that he loves it and he thinks it's absolutely amazing. So I don't think you can knock him for that. I think the whole way it's been handled has been awful.
Yeah.
And I think people have been very critical of Charlie, his brother, who's his agent. But actually, I think Kane needs to take a lot more of the blame. I think people are deflecting onto Charlie because Kane, as everybody said, is an intelligent guy, a family guy. He's the England captain. He represents himself very well. He'd have known all of this. And I think there are ways in which you go about it. What we don't know is we don't know what's happened. And I know people have turned around and said, well, he's got a gentleman's agreement and all of these things, but that doesn't mean anything. But, you know, I try to think about that from where I work now. I've worked where I work for 7.5 years and I've got an amazing relationship with my boss. And if I wanted to leave and he said, look, Adam, give me a bit more time, and it didn't work, and in 6 months I said, look, I'm off. If he said, no, not in writing, get lost, you would feel angry, let down and hurt, whether it's written down or not. We don't know the conversations that have been had with Daniel Levy and Spurs over the past year. Daniel Levy might have said, give me 1 more year and I promise you can go. He might have said that. Whether that's in writing or not, if Harry Kane has been at Spurs since he's 11 and he entrusted Daniel Levy that he's worked with every day and he's trusted him on that, it's trust. And everybody works in business where you trust people. You don't necessarily get everything written down. And that doesn't mean that you're not then angry and hurt and disappointed with that person when they turn around and said, no, you're not for sale now. Well, you can't go. You didn't write it down. Don't know what you're talking about. Everyone would be angry.
Yeah.
So I can see, and that's the bit, we don't know what's going on. And I think there are ways in which you can do it. So the point about coming back late, we don't know. But obviously, if you're going to down tools, generally you down tools last, as a last resort, and it's almost like they've done things in a really wrong way. Yes, a contract is a contract is a contract, but football is football at the end of the day. Players sign contracts, players have values, and they go, and clubs trade. So, you know, we bought Romero. He was under contract with Atlanta. Gil was under contract with Seville. It's irrelevant. Players have values and clubs sell.
Can I just say, when fans talk about, well, you know, he signed a 6-year contract and nobody forced him to do it and he should honour that contract, that works one way. But every single fan wants to dump Moussa Sissoko and Harry Winks, and they've got contracts.
And it goes for the clubs as well.
You can't have it both ways. So those supporters that want Kane to see out his contract should not be trying to force Moussa Sissoko and Harry Winks and Eric Dier not to see out their contracts. That's hypocritical.
Exactly. All a contract does, all a long contract does is it protects the club to be able to get a transfer fee that they want, and it gives them the control. And Daniel Levy has been very good at that over the years to ensure, ever since the Sol Campbell saga, that we're not in those situations where we're not getting value for money.
See, Adam's mentioned the word transfer fee and value a few times. And at the heart of this is value.
Yeah.
Spurs are quite right, or well within their rights, to expect to sell Harry Kane for market value if indeed they are going to sell him, despite the fact that they've repeatedly said he's not for sale. If they are going to sell him, we want to sell him at market value. Now, somewhere in the background, this figure of 100 million has come up. Harry Kane mentioned it in the interview with Gary Neville.
That's the first time it was mentioned, wasn't it? That was the first time this 100 million figure's been batted around. Yeah.
So, and even then, Gary Neville said to him, I think Daniel Levy would be wanting closer to 200, he said to him in that interview. But nevertheless, Harry Kane mentioned that 100 million figure. And then it's been constantly reported during this summer period in the media that Man City are offering or will offer 100 million. And to date, I'm not even sure that Manchester City have made an official bid for Harry Kane. And all that seems to be happening is that there's tidbits being passed to certain people in the media. There's a game of Chinese whispers going on. It's fueling the fire, and nothing has actually happened. And as I said earlier, if Manchester City want to purchase Harry Kane, they should make an offer to the club, and then we'll either accept it or reject it and have done with it.
I am slightly sceptical of that. I 100% agree with you, Baz. But the way we're apparently bidding for some of these players for 70, 80 million, these strikers, it makes me wonder whether there are negotiations going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, and Spurs are just trying to get their ducks in order first before letting him go.
That's a possibility. Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah.
I think as well, as I've said all along, to me, the deal was never going to be agreed before this season kicked off. There is no way that Tottenham wanted Harry Kane's debut to be at White Hart Lane. Talk about ram it down your throat, with the whole he left because you blah, blah, blah. Is there away fans this Sunday? Perhaps we won't have to suffer that.
Well, I want to ask you a question, James, because Ad's mentioned that for him, and I want to discuss this. Adam's mentioned, for you that your support isn't going to change towards him. It will still be exactly the same. Am I right in saying that, Ads, for you, regardless of whatever happens, your support won't change for the moment?
I don't begrudge him wanting to leave.
No, I don't begrudge him. The thing for me is, I don't begrudge him wanting to leave. I agree to that, but I think in 5-10 years' time, no one's going to look at that. What I do disagree on slightly, everything you've said, I agree with, but the only thing I would disagree on slightly is that at Tottenham, he had the chance, and he still has that chance. He hasn't gone anywhere yet. He has the chance for me to be that one. Well, I know he's obviously gone on low, but the one club man essentially that has come through the ranks, that has fought adversity, that we've all defended. Amongst crazy decisions that we've defended Kane over as fans. When you think we've defended the guy over, I have to say
that's a fan's view.
It is a fan. You're right.
That is a fan's view. He will turn around, and a footballer will turn around and go, "I'm in a business. If Levy wanted to sell me tomorrow, he'd sell me, and I'd be nobody. I've given Spurs however long. This is my life and my career, and I want to win the biggest trophies. He's the best number 9 in the world. He should be playing and winning."
My frustration is that he's actually had the chance to win the biggest trophies with Tottenham. He's had the chance to win the FA Cup. He's had the chance to win the League Cup, the Premier League, the Champions League. And no offence to him, even on the World Cup and the Euro stage, when he's been put in the spotlight on every one of those stages, for whatever reason, be it not fit, carrying an injury, he hasn't turned up. So, yes, I totally agree and I understand with Harry Kane why he wants to move this summer. I want to go, but I'm not allowed. I've got to be a Spurs fan. We've got to carry on supporting them. But the point I'm trying to make is that for me, Jace, coming over to you, is that he had the chance to be, actually glorified if he was to remain at Tottenham. He's so close now to beating Jimmy Greaves' record to become Tottenham's overall top goal scorer ever. I've got no doubt that he would have had a statue named after him, maybe even a stand named after him. And he's risking all this. And I understand that he wants to win trophies. I get that. But winning it with City, where Ad says it still means the same, I'm not quite sure. What do you think?
That's up to him, isn't it? I can understand why he'd sooner look back and say I've won 3 Premier League titles than be Tottenham Hotspur's record goal scorer. I can understand that. We had it with Carl Walker, didn't we? Where he wanted to go. Gareth Bale wanted to go.
Yeah, but no offense to Carl Walker. Carl Walker wasn't second or third or fourth on the list of being Tottenham Hotspur's overall top scorer ever.
No, but Gareth Bale was Footballer of the Year and Football Writers Player of the Year, was a world-class superstar. He wanted to go and prove himself with Real Madrid, and he's ended up winning 3 Champions Leagues and 13 titles there, and he could be sitting there saying, yeah, but I could have been a legend at Tottenham, or I've won 13 titles and I'm the most decorated foreign player. I don't have a problem with that. I can understand if I take the Tottenham focus off for a second. I can understand why he wants to go and win 3 Premier. You know, we talked about Steven Gerrard and John Terry being one club man, but they were winning titles at that club. You know, Steven Gerrard was a European, right? He didn't win the league, but he won a European Cup. He won an FA Cup. You know, the only one who could possibly relate to Harry Kane is probably Mark Noble. And let's be fair, nobody would want him. I don't even think Hull City would bid $1 million for him. So,
can I jump in? Because that point just goes back to what you said, Ricky. We had the chance to win stuff and we didn't.
Yeah.
And we've significantly regressed since then. People talk about the 6-year deal. At the time of signing it, we were Champions League, Pochettino, going into the new stadium. Everything was looking fantastic. And it was a great new dawn that was coming. And now, look where we are. So he's probably thought, well, that's been and gone. And how long is it going to be to get back there? Yeah. Well, by that time, he could be 30, 31.
I think the other thing...
45.
I think the other
At the earliest, I'm being very optimistic.
Yeah, but at the moment, he could be hitting 60 the way it's going. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you.
Not with his ankles.
The other thing that plays on my mind, Rick, anyway, is whatever happens this summer, when he gets down to 2 years on his contract to go, you know, we may well be wanting him to leave next year if he doesn't show any signs of saying, OK, I'll sign. If he doesn't show their signs of committing to a new one, we'll be sitting there thinking, well, Harry, we'd sooner sell you than not. And then no one will be saying he should honour his 6-year contract when we're the ones trying to get the money for him. So, you know, whether he goes this year or next, I think we can see what's probably the end game is. And we just have to do that. And from his point of view, he's looking at it thinking, if I don't go this year, Haaland goes for 66 million next year, and Kylian Mbappe is currently available on a free transfer next year. So I'm flavour of the month now, but in 12 months, when Haaland and Mbappe or me are flavour of the month, it's not so sure that they'll all want to come for me.
Yeah, I think Harry Kane knows that he has to go this season if he's going to work out for him, because
is that for both parties, Vass? Out of interest for you, is that accommodating for both? Is that for Tottenham as well? If they're going to sell him, does it have to be this summer as well for them in terms of getting that market value? Which I know in what you do in your personal life, that's something it's a big thing, that in terms of what Spurs are going to get for him as a fee.
Possibly, because it's supply and demand, isn't it? If next summer you've got Haaland, Mbappe, and Kane on the market, it might deflate his value. But at the end of the day, if you keep him for another season and then he does go for 100 million next season, as opposed to maybe, I don't know, 140 this season, you could probably live with it if he's helped you get back into the Champions League. So, yeah, his value will drop, and maybe it is an optimum value this summer. And the other thing I just wanted to say, there's a backstory to all of this. And whilst I've been quite supportive of Daniel Levy in respect of a lot of things that he's done for the club, he has made some bad mistakes along the way. No question about that. And I think this whole Kane situation has to fall on Daniel Levy's shoulders, because not building when we had the opportunity on the playing side under Pochettino, and then ultimately sacking a man who had the club at heart, unified the fan base, had a project in mind, had a philosophy, sacking that guy and then opting for a quick fix with Jose Mourinho, who was probably well past his sell-by date anyway at that time, just regressed us even further, to use Adam's phrase of us regressing. And, you know, maybe we wouldn't be at this crossroads right now with Harry Kane had we managed things a little bit better as a club in the past 2 or 3 seasons. Absolutely. But there you go. We are where we are, I guess.
I think I just want to say, I think the one thing, Vass, that and I'm not defending that, and I'm certainly not defending what he did. I think his point would be that on the back of that Champions League final, when Pochettino talked new furniture and we got to back the manager, we went out and spent 65 million, and nobody wasn't excited when we signed Tanguy Ndombele. Yeah. And then, yes, it was Bruno Fernandes or Gio Lo Celso. Poch, being an Argentinian, seemed to prefer Lo Celso over Fernandes, so we got Lo Celso. We signed the most talented British young player that was imaginable at that stage, that again every club was linked with. So his point would probably be that window. I did actually go out and spend 140 million and bring in the players that everyone wanted. It's just that those three between them have been so far an absolute disaster to us.
I think there's reasons for that, to be fair, but I think ultimately as well, sorry, Adam, to cut you off, I think ultimately as well, I think what cost us and what proved to cost us subsequently were the transfer windows prior to that. But sorry,
the no transfer window when we should have had Grealish, for sure.
Yeah, and it was too little, too late. And I think the window that you're talking about, on paper it looked like a good window, but actually when you look at it, we were linked, and we knew that we were getting Lo Celso and Sessegnon all summer. They both came on deadline day. So again, they both came injured. They came too late. They had no pre-season. And everybody knew that they were coming to Spurs. They were done deals. Yeah. And again, so when we're talking about the problem with the chairman, that is one of the problems. Liverpool always do their business early. Man U under Fergie always did it early. So yes, had those three signings come in early-ish enough to have a problem, it might have been different. But the problems, I agree. But the problems are the 2-3 transfer windows before that where we did nothing. But anyway, I think Ricky wants to move on, doesn't he?
Well, Ndombele's now had 3 pre-seasons. And
we are going to go to him next. Before we do, just to summarise on Harry Kane very quickly, guys. Just give us a sentence answer on this. We'll go first to you, Jace. Will Harry Kane be a Spurs player come the end of the summer transfer window?
I think City will come back with around about 140. And I think if they get to 140, we might crumble. Because I think his desire to want to go away. I know Lee McQueen, on us, we've talked about new deals and that in the offering. I just think that it's so quiet from the Kane camp. Really quiet. I just get that horrid feeling that once this fixture's out of the way, I think they'll come back with 120 plus add-ons and we'll reject it. I think on the last couple of days of the window, they will end up coming with 140, having got rid of Bernardo Silva or whatever by then. And then we've got a real question to answer. And I think if they come back at 140, genuine cash at 140, we will give way.
Let's come around to you, Name. That's next, just to summarise on that. Harry Kane, for you, will Harry Kane be a Spurs player, Vass? Come the end of August, beginning of September?
$1 million question, isn't it, Rick?
It is. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I have to agree with Jace. I think this is going to rumble on, and as he quite rightly says, it's just too quiet, and there's not enough noise coming from the club or Harry Kane. Yeah. That to signify that he'll be here next season. So for that reason, I think he'll probably be gone.
Ad, will you be chanting his name, still singing his name in September? Will he be here?
No, I think he's gone. I agree with what they both say. And I think Spurs put out that video clip today, didn't they? That photo shoot of the shirts. And I think all of those things are telling. He's not on anything. Yeah. He's not anywhere. There's not been a picture of him.
No.
At all. And I think that is when you just think, just says it, doesn't it? And I think it will happen late. I think we'll probably sign a couple of players this week who will be the replacements in the same way we did with Bale. Hopefully,
Nuno had a chance.
Players.
Nuno had the chance to just simply say not for sale.
And we didn't say that. No,
he didn't say it.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, we're going to go next to Jason's favourite player. For our listeners that are on audio, we are going to go for a very short break, and when we return, it's the Tanguy Ndombele show. Jason's favourite player, the Maradona of Tottenham. We're going to go there next. For you on YouTube, we're getting straight into it right now. Tanguy Ndombele. I've got a load of questions on Ndombele. I've got a question here. This is Richie. Richie Smith says, thoughts on the Ndombele situation. Does he suit what Nuno is looking for in the midfield three, or is he currently behind Lo Celso, Ali, and even Skipp in the pecking order? My God. Do you know what? I'm going to start on Ndombele, and this might surprise Jason because I think, Jason, we've had so many backwards and forwards with Ndombele, and I've got to be honest and say that this summer for me is it's just tipped it too far. I've got to be honest, I've always supported him. I've always thought there's a player in there that is just magical when you can get him on the pitch for 90 minutes. But the problem we've had over the last 2 or 3 seasons, and Jason, you know this because you've reminded me every single week, is that we haven't got him on the pitch for 90 minutes. on a more often basis, and that is the biggest problem because his talent is incredible. And I think the issue that Spurs are as a club right now is that we cannot afford to carry this kind of player in this season. So, I mean, we'll come first to you, Ads, because, again, from reports we're seeing that he's weighing up his options. From Nuno's press conference, again, it seems to indicate that I'd be very doubtful if he's going to be involved because, yeah, I say he's not had a minute of pre-season. From what we understand, he's disappointed that Sissoko Honoria would be going, but I'm not being funny. It wouldn't take a genius to work out that they'd be leaving soon anyway. So I can't believe it's news to him that suddenly these two guys, his friends, might be going. So where are you, Adson, on Ndombele? Is his time for the club come towards an end?
I mean, I look at he reminds me. I was thinking about it. He reminds me. I played Sunday morning football at a very, very average level, rubbish level. But you used to train with some guys that the best players you've ever seen. There was this one guy. He was the most unbelievable five-a-side player. When you put him on 11-a-side, he was awful. And Ndombele reminds me of that. He's the most skillful, talented player, but he doesn't have the stamina. I asked somebody, I don't know whether you've discussed this because Jason was saying, I don't know if he's actually played 90 minutes in the league for Spurs. I don't actually know if
I can confirm he has played 90 minutes. I mean, Jason was at a push, but he has played 90 minutes.
Yeah, look, we're
in 2 years.
Yeah, how many?
13 times in 2 years that he's got through 90 minutes.
There's clearly something there, and someone told me that he was 10 days late for training. This summer as well, whereas Kane's getting all the stick, but apparently Ndombele was 10 days late as well. But you can see, I mean, Spurs posted something, let's put some Ndombele action out, and you saw him jogging out, and he looked like he was struggling to jog out then as well. I mean, his fitness, and I don't quite know what it is with him, but the reality is, if you look at all the games where we were doing well in the first half and starting well and playing quite well, he was there. When you need a player to dig in and fight and scrap, I don't think he's that man. I think he's had long enough. I think if we keep him for another season and the same thing happens, I don't know how long he signed, 5 years, 6 years, his stock will be so low. I think we should cash in on him and replace him. I wouldn't start him anywhere in my starting 11.
It's coming to you, Vas. What's your take on Ndombele? I mean, I hear you every week. So for the listeners that don't hear you every week, your thoughts on Ndombele? What do you think is going to happen with him?
Yeah, he's an enigma, isn't he? Certainly natural ability by the bucket load. I mean, the stuff that he can do with a football, it can be breathtaking. His issues, I think, are in his head, if I'm totally honest. He's, for a professional footballer to not be at optimum peak fitness often enough is not good enough, really. The only thing I'd say on the flip side in defence of Ndombele is, I think before we bought him, he'd had pretty much one good season with Lyon, hadn't he? Maybe a season and a half. Prior to that, he was playing like 4th division football in France. I think he's come to the game later than most, to the top level. And I don't think he's ever really kind of caught up from a mental point of view and a conditioning point of view. Now, Pochettino wanted him. He got him. I think at the time we were all very excited with the signing. There was very few Spurs fans that weren't excited by it, I would say. But Poch saw that he needed conditioning. But sadly, Poch wasn't here long enough to do maybe what he wanted to do with the guy. And then Mourinho comes in. Yeah. And I think a lot of players, not just Ndombele, sort of had peaks and troughs under Mourinho, because 1 minute they were in, next minute they were out. And it didn't really go well for Ndombele, because I don't think that kind of approach would do it for him, let's say. I'm a little bit hopeful that with Nuno in and going back to double training sessions, etc., maybe he can get him into the conditioning that's needed for Ndombele to prosper. But of course, we come back to the thing about the issues being in his head, missing his mates, if Sissoko and Aurier do go, this kind of thing. He's got to take on the responsibility himself, and he has, as a professional footballer, got to be ready to play. Somebody, I mean, I follow the NFL. One of the sayings that they have there is, the best kind of ability is availability, right? You've got to be available for your team. Otherwise, what's the point?
Can I just jump? I mean, you made a couple of like really good points there, and I think, if you, a few weeks ago, everyone was laughing at pictures of Willian on the pitch at Arsenal, and saying how embarrassing that was, and it's almost similar. I know a player this summer, in the England squad. He took his physician away with him on holiday to make sure he was in peak condition for when he returned. And he has a physician and a nutritionist because he kept on getting injured and he wanted to improve himself. And Ndombele wasn't at the Euros.
No.
He could have got himself into incredible condition, or stayed fit in preparation for pre-season and done extra work. And that's what the top players frankly do. The very top players, they do that. They have their own nutritionists, physicians and so on to help them. And I think that is his problem.
He's not of that mindset, is he? I think that's the point I was making. I don't think he's got that kind of approach to professional football for some reason. Whether it was because he was late to the top level or whatever it is, or maybe he's just too laid back for his own good. But you're absolutely right. He should have been doing that. I agree with you, Adam. Yeah.
I think the France thing is really important as well, because lots of people say, oh, he struggled at Tottenham and we don't play him here and Mourinho didn't do this. But, people forget there's a fourth manager in this. France don't pick him. We've just had a Euros where we had a 26-man squad and France don't consider him in amongst the best 26 French footballers, but they do still take Moussa Sissoko. And that to me says everything. France can't.
Yeah, even I need to have a word with that guy, to be honest with you. I've got a question.
France can't. And, my frustration with Ndombele is we're not even discussing what he brings to the team when he's on the pitch. We're talking about him getting onto the pitch.
Yeah. And staying on for a whole match.
We're not saying, well, I want to sell him because he's not giving me everything when we play Chelsea. We're saying he can't be bothered to turn up when we play Chelsea. This is the problem with the player. And, Gio Lo Celso has hardly played 90 minutes for Tottenham. But with Lo Celso, we've seen him suffer genuine injuries. I can't think in the 2 years of Ndombele we've really had an injury either. That's the thing. We haven't had a broken leg. We haven't had knee ligaments. We haven't had a ripped hamstring. We haven't had a broken ankle. We've had no real injury. We've had a calf strain and an abductor strain, but no real genuine injury that would see him miss huge chunks of the season and need protecting when he comes back into the team to come on for 20 minutes and 30 minutes or do the start in a car. Nothing like that. We just can't get the bloke physically right in the head or with the heart to get on the pitch and give us 90 minutes. That's it.
I think somebody just put in a little thing at the bottom that said, don't play him in a 6 or 8, he's a 10. And I think the thing with Ndombele is if you assume that you could get him fit, I think you'd almost have to sit down and work out your team completely around him and plonk him in the middle and say, where do we want to play him? He's definitely not a 6. I don't think he's a 10 either, to be honest with you. I don't. No. I think he's somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah, I think now that we're talking formation, I think if we play a 4-3-3 under Nuno, that might actually suit him. We was always playing with a 2 before.
I think Dele's the missing guy. I know I'm throwing his name into it. We'll come on to Dele later, but I think Dele's maybe the missing guy when you look at that formation. I think Ndombele, like you just said there, Vas, I think he's perfectly suited to Nuno's formation. I think the issue we've got, and it's one that we all know, is that it's the fitness, and it's whether we can afford to carry this kind of player in the season that we've got to come, and whether Nuno can as well. I mean, his comments today, I mean, we'll get your thoughts on these ads. He said it's about us to decide the right moment to use the players we have available, and when we decide, we consider many aspects, not only what we want, but what we think the players we should do. Like many players in our squad, it's not easy to adapt to a new idea, a new philosophy, but we keep on insisting and believing that this is the right way, and the right moment will come when we believe when it should be. Well, he's not playing a minute of pre-season football under him.
Well, and there you go. He talks about it's the adaptation to a new philosophy, which suggests to me they're saying to him, I want you to do this, and he's just not doing it. He's just showing no signs of doing it.
I think it's more than fitness as well. I think it's mentality. as well, is what I said. You know, if you think about the games that we were losing in the second half, where we were sort of crumbling a little bit, he wasn't. You remember, like Dembele, the old Dembele, the real one. He would get he would get the ball.
It's on a counterfeit. It's on a counterfeit. This one.
He is in a minute.
The real one.
He would get the ball and carry it. You know, when you want a player to dig in late in a game and get you out of trouble and carry the ball and do, he would never do that. He would just disappear, and then get subbed off. So I think it's fitness and also that real desire. And I think they're the things that Nuno is alluding to. You know, the fitness, the running, all of those types of things, and sacrificing yourself. It's all the things that Pochettino used to talk about as well. Similar type of talk.
Yeah, I mean, out of interest, where we stand at the moment, let's come to you, Jace. Will he be a Spurs player come the end of the summer transfer window, or do you think we will get a big bid that comes in for him? I'm saying that. I'm thinking, who's going to come in with this big bid for him?
Well,
you know, what he bought him for.
The only club that's ever been linked to that you would have thought were capable of paying a big fee is Barcelona, and I don't even think they can afford Tottenham's bus driver. So, so you got a big problem there, haven't you? I mean, they couldn't buy a lawnmower from us, let alone a player. So I don't see any way that Ndombele will be sold, because no one is going to give him 200 grand a week. And I don't think anyone's going to bid 40, even 40, 35, 40 million for him. So I think he will be a Tottenham player, and that's the problem. We then have a player that he really should be the key player in the team. He is so much the player on profile that we should be building the team around and getting dominant performances from. And yet he'll be a player that will be on the periphery all season. We'll have his YouTube moment where he does a pirouette against Brighton or something like that, and everyone will call him Ndombele. But actually, when it comes to the end of the season, you'll think he was missing for 30 of the 38 games.
Adds a question on the screen there. It's more a statement really from Terry Wright. He says, hopefully fatherhood will improve his immaturity and desire to improve as a professional footballer and fulfill his unbelievable potential.
Hopefully.
What do you think, Ad?
I think one of the problems that, you know, we've all had being parents, I know Vaz is, I don't know, Jason, if you are, I know Ricky, yours is only a little one, is when your children start growing up, you start eating their leftover food, and it's not good for your diet and physical ability. So I'm not quite sure that's going to be. I don't know. I don't know, because you're sitting there and you're thinking, this is the fourth manager now, and you know, whatever you think of Mourinho or not, Mourinho's managed and won everything there is to win. He knows what it takes, and he's gone at him in a particular way. And he probably got the most out of him out of everybody has, but nobody has got anything out of him, really. And I'm not quite sure, unless it's got to come from within. But things like, I think Gary Neville spoke about it once, talent only gets you so far in football, doesn't it? There's much more to it than that. And I just don't think he has that real top level mentality and desire.
It's a real shame, because I mean, Jace, we've had so many barners on this with Ndombele going backwards and forwards, where I've said, you know, back him, he's going to be a baller, and I think the problem is that he will be a baller. He won't be here. I think he will go on to another league and he will tear it up. I just think it won't be over here. It definitely won't be in England. I mean, that's final vote for you with Ndombele. What do you see happening? Do you think someone will come in with a bid and he'll leave during this window, or do you think we will get him back into the squad, reintegrate him, and he can have another decent season? Because do you know what? I mean, up until the point where obviously Mason came in charge, he was a regular feature under Mourinho's team. He worked his way in. I think it's fair to say that I think he would have been well on his way to probably a lot of people saying he would have been our player of the season. I think many people would have said that. You know, great goal against Sheffield. You don't think, Jason? Ndombele, when he was playing every week, no? Last season?
Nowhere near it.
Not last season.
No, I don't think.
I think there was a good spell. There was a good spell, about a 5 or 6 game spell where it was really good. There was. If you go back and look at it, there was.
Yeah.
I
think he will be with us for the reasons that Jason stated, and that is the lack of purchasers. Really, he's only going to go back to France if anyone wants him in France. Someone's just put up Nicky Wallace. He averaged at Lyon 79 minutes per game and 69 minutes the previous season. See, sometimes there are players that are like that. I remember back in the day, I'm going back a little bit, where players like Mickey Hazard would come on and do all the running for about 70 minutes and burn himself out, and then he'd be gone, and somebody else will come on, and so these kind of things do happen. There's other players too, but Mickey was the first one that came into my mind. I think Ndombele will be with us, and I think Nuno will prep him and get him ready. I don't think we're going to see him maybe for the first couple of months too much, maybe in and out, just getting him some game time, but then hopefully he'll get him up to speed, and probably come end of October or whatever, then we'll really see him start to play a role. Let's hope so anyway.
Will he be the man then, Bass, to unlock him, do you think? Because at one point now, Mourinho, I thought this isn't going to work, but I mean, in a real bizarre way, whatever he did to him, for those, I mean, like you boys have only said 5 or 6 games in, not over a season. We saw something about him for those games. Can you see Nuno having that impact with him?
I think I can, more so than Jose ever did. I mean, to sort of quote Jason, when we were defending deep.
2-0 Brentford.
2-0.
Nice one.
20 minutes to go.
Now. Stop it.
Can we finish right now? We're not even going to play a game. Can we just end it right now? Let's go straight to the end of season party where we've just finished.
Jason's happy. I forgot what I was saying. Anyway,
where's that league table? Get it up quick.
So you think, we're going back to Ndombele, you said, just to finish up on Ndombele, you think Nuno will integrate him, we will see a player now. The question I was going to ask you, like I said, is whether you feel he's going to unlock him to be the player that everyone wants him to be.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think under Jose, it was difficult. At times we were playing so deep that we didn't really have a plan to create from defence into attack. It just seemed a little bit haphazard. I know we got some goals. Harry Kane and Son had a fantastic season, but everything behind them was a bit of a mishmash. So, yeah, I'm hoping that Nuno can provide the structure that Ndombele needs to succeed. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, well, listen, we're going to go, for our listeners on audio, we're going to go for our final break of the show. Taking into this break, we've got a Man City preview, and then I'll say we're going to be discussing Man City. For those on YouTube, stay with us. We're going straight into that right now. Right, guys, Man City, the big one. Like I say, we've discussed Kane, we've done Ndombele. It's time to dig a little bit deeper into what our feelings are ahead of this game at the weekend. Huge game. Champions, of course. Now, City, we understand they're going to be remaining without the likes of De Bruyne, Foden. Obviously, that Community Shield last week, guys, I don't know what you thought. I watched it, and again, I know you can't pay too much attention to those kind of games where it's still players getting into the feel of things. But I think they looked really lost without a focal number 9. Dare I say, they looked like they needed someone like Harry Kane. But do you go into Sunday's season a real opportunity here to play a depleted City side where, at Spurs, although we look, obviously, as a whole, maybe we're quite depleted as well, we've got an opportunity here? Am I getting carried away?
No, I think, I think Nuno got asked it in the press conference. I think he's never going to admit, yes, it's a great time to be playing them because they don't have 3 or 4 of their best players, because then if you lose to them, it's embarrassing. But I think, last season they started the season poorly, City, and then they got on a run. I think if you had the choice to play them without Stones, De Bruyne, Jesus, Foden, etc., you would bite your hand off. But they have so many good players. I do think, if Jesus isn't out, and I don't know if Sterling's back or not, then they don't have that focal point. But I think we're also quite an unknown quantity. Nobody really knows what you're going to get with us. Are we going to end up seeing the same Spurs as we saw at the back end of last season? Or is it going to be a little bit different? But I think if you're saying, I'd rather play them this weekend now, based on where they are, than when they're in free flow, where they're smashing everybody. If you gave me the chance, now's a good time to play them. Given all of that,
and that's despite with the Harry Kane situation we find ourselves in. For you, still the best time to be playing him.
Well, we've played all pre-season without Kane, so it's not like Kane's been there and then he's not there. We've clearly been playing and working away in all of these games, without Kane. Someone said we're going to be playing without Kane and Romero. I've got a feeling he might chuck Romero in tomorrow. Personally, I don't know. I could be wrong there.
Haven't we beaten them twice in the new stadium without Kane?
We have.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
if you look back, if you look back over the years, for a lot of time, we've always beaten Man City in big games. It's quite strange. I remember you can go back like 81.
Yeah.
Loads of times in FA Cups, loads of big games, we've done very, very well against them.
Well, our head-to-head in the league with them, the head-to-head in the Premier League is we've won 25 times, drawn 7, City have won 16. It's not bad when you think about City and where they're at. I mean, yeah, it's quite impressive. Yeah, I mean, Vas has come over to you. Listen, it's gonna be first game of the season. You know, fans are back in that stadium, which is great. Number one. Number two, I do get that feeling that there is that new manager bounce feeling under Nuno. There's a lot of positivity going around the camp. And yes, of course, he wasn't the first choice. Yes, we haven't got all the players that we want yet. We know that. But for you, Vas, is there a small bit of optimism going in the game here that we've got an opportunity from what you've seen in pre-season and around the camp so far?
Yeah, I think if we were basing our approach on the pre-season games early doors, then there's not too much you can take from beating Colchester and those types of teams. But I think the results against Chelsea and Arsenal will give us a bit of a lift and we'll go into the game with some confidence. I agree with that, Adam. It seems as though playing them on this weekend might be a massive opportunity for us, and maybe it is the best time to play them. But they do have a deep squad, let's not forget. So, you know, it's easy to get ahead of yourselves knowing that, you know, De Bruyne's out, Foden's out, Stones is out, etc. I think we'll definitely give them a game. It's at home, as you said, Rick. We've got the 60,000 people back in the stadium, and that will be a deciding factor in some respects. Defensively, we're still not settled, although Dier and Sanchez, I think they had a good game against Arsenal in the friendly. Mind you, given the score so far, Jace, it couldn't have been that much of a good thing. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I've got some optimism to answer your question directly, Rick. Yeah, I do have some optimism for Sunday. Yeah.
Jace, it's been a while, I think, Jace. You've now actually looked forward to a season because of obviously the last couple of seasons that we've had under Mourinho. So, Jace, are you looking forward to it?
I am. Perhaps more so once that window's shut and we know what our squad is. I don't just mean Kane. We know.
Yeah, generally,
I mean, you know, I haven't seen a single link with Serge Aurier leaving, but we know that we all keep saying we need a new right back. But there's no sign of Aurier leaving.
John keeps funny. You just keep being told with Aurier that his agent's working on something. But oh my God, how long's he working on this for?
Exactly. Perhaps he's been working with Ndombele in fitness as well.
Probably, probably, maybe.
But I think it is a good time to play City. I think they are seriously undercooked. They've got fantastic players for sure. I think some of those England players, Sterling, Walker, or whatever, will play. I don't know. I just get that. I don't know what you call it. Fate. It's fate that Kane comes off the bench to score the winner. It is just that is the headline that is waiting. I just think that's the story that will get happening is that Kane comes off the bench, 75th minute, scores a winner. I see these things happening in football. It's like the curse of the old boy. The old boy always comes back to haunt you. And I just think there's so much speculation about Kane at the moment that and so much attention around him, and we know Sky's commentary is going to be absolutely dreadful come Sunday, isn't it? And every single pre-game Nuno will be asked, why isn't Kane in the starting lineup or something like that? But I just see Harry Kane winner for Tottenham on Sunday as being the story. I really can.
On that point, then let's come around, guys, and ask you about team, what we're expecting. Ads, do you expect Harry Kane to have any involvement whatsoever?
I think it wouldn't surprise me if he was on the bench. I think Romero might play. I don't know. The interesting one I think is probably centre mid-ish. I like Lo Celso. I know he's not been fit for long enough. I think he's another one who hasn't had a pre-season. There was one spell, I think, after lockdown where he was fit and he did play and he was very good. If that Lo Celso can play, I'd like to see him in the middle. And then I sort of get confused because I don't quite know where Dele goes. I think Dele has a problem in football as a person.
You mean
because I think-
generally? Yeah.
Because I think the 4-2-3-1 formation with Kane as a number 9 and Dele as a 10 running off of him is absolutely perfect for Dele. He can't.
Yep.
He's nowhere near as effective in any other formation.
No.
And 4-3-3 or 4-4-2, he doesn't. It's like it's difficult to know where he sort of fits in that.
It's interesting. I mean, it's a great point you make there, because I agree that for Dele, what's been bizarre, Vass, is that he's actually started every game of Nuno's pre-season. You know, you look at it and you think every game he's been involved in. So therefore, surely he wouldn't be playing him every game if number one, he didn't fancy him, and number two, he's not got the foresight to think, well, I'm going to be playing him next season. Do you see where I'm coming from? Why would he be playing every pre-season game if he's not going to be part of Nuno's plans?
I think he's probably one of the players that Nuno needs to have a really good look at for the reasons that Adam stated in terms of where his best position is and the formations, and because Dele is at a bit of a crossroads. He had a poor season last season, wasn't helped by Jose, but he had a poor season, and I think Nuno wants to see him, and that's why he's playing every minute. Now, I was encouraged with his performance in the Arsenal game, because I saw Dele be creative. I saw him buzz around in midfield. I saw him get forward, and he had a couple of good chances, hit the post. And then towards the end of the game, I saw him dropping deeper and trying to hit people with long passes. So there seems to be a variation in Dele's game coming through now. It's just a question of whether it's something that we're going to be seeing more of or not.
The interesting thing with Dele is, Jace, you know, we've seen Dele at his best in a Tottenham shirt, and the last 2 seasons, it just, for whatever reason, just hasn't quite worked out. You know, maybe it's to do with, you know, personal, or, you know, in terms of managers that obviously have come his way. But obviously the key thing here is, can Nuno get that Dele back that we know what he's capable of? We've seen him contribute to the team and link up and score, you know, a substantial amount of goals. You know, we don't need that stat again we throw away at the time. Was, I think, more goals than the likes of combined Gerrard, Beckham, Lampard. When you look at the stats, it was at the time, it was an incredible start. It was a formidable start. And the problem is, when you have that much of a rise early on, the expectation just goes up, and that's amongst the fan base as well.
Yeah,
I think, you know, there's a massive pressure then on Dele to keep on performing at that level, and it's not easy, that football. We know that, and you'd always expect a dip. But I think it's fair to say we didn't expect a dip where, you know, 2 seasons in a row where there's not been the same player there. And I think, will he ever get back to that player at Tottenham?
I think Adam sums it up perfectly. I think it's the role that he plays. He has to adapt to the way that we're playing now, and we don't play with the 4-2-3-1 with him able to run off a Kane. So he has to find a different way. I would think the one thing that Nuno's probably impressed with, and I think I'm impressed with how Dele's gone through this summer. I thought he gave a really mature interview where he could have easily blamed everything on Mourinho, and he said, it's not Mourinho. I should never be in a position where I should be left out of the team. He very much took ownership of his own problems. He didn't try and hide behind excuses. He's gone away. He has worked incredibly hard on his fitness and the condition he's. And we talk about Ndombele's mentality. Dele's shown the other way. So, you know, when Nuno sees him working as hard to be part of new plans, that's got to impress a new manager. So I think he will get the chance to. I think Gio's obviously had the problem with, like, the England players, where Argentina went right the way through to the final. So Gio hasn't been really available until last Sunday anyway to play. As Gio's fitness and levels come up, then there's a genuine choice maybe for the role between Dele and Gio, which there hasn't been through pre-season. I think Dele gets the shout on Sunday. It's up to Dele to put on a performance Sunday that makes sure he holds that shirt for the following week. And when you're in possession of the shirt, you're the one that's got to control it. So I think he'll have the early chances. But as the season progresses, if Dele isn't producing enough in that role, and then Gio does start to play well in it, then he'll have the same problems again. But it's up to Dele to show us what he can do in a different role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, taking a look more into the starting 11. Let's come on to back to you, Ads. You know, doubts wise for Tottenham, like we've said, and Ndombele, he always apparently a bit of a doubt. Romero, Kane, Sessegnon, all down to fitness. In terms of, we'll look at maybe defence. We expect Lloris to start in goal, we would assume, although Galini. What do you think? Well, Lloris to start. Is that a given? What do you think?
I was thinking about this today, actually, and it wouldn't surprise me if Lloris didn't start. I think he will. But actually, that's one position that's almost not got spoken about at all. I think everyone's just thought, he's come in as a number 2. And that's one place where I would say I'm not 100% nailed on that's right. But I'd be surprised if Lloris didn't start. I think that, you know, I think it will be 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. I think it will probably be pretty much the team that has been playing every other game. I hope Skipp starts with Højbjerg, and then Dele or Lo Celso will play. I assume it will be Tanganga at right back. But I don't think we've got, you know, Aurier and Sissoko, they clearly want to get rid of. They haven't given them any time at all.
Yeah.
So there's not huge amounts of options after that, and I can't see Kane starting.
Yeah. I mean, are we the mindset, coming over to you, Vass, are we the mindset that Sanchez and Dier are going to be paired together for this one?
I think so. I know Adams hinted that Romero might play, but I don't know if I'd throw him in straight away. He's not had any pre-season. He's not really played with either Dier or Sanchez alongside him.
You wouldn't throw him in, even though the concerns with Sanchez and Dier's erraticness, that's even erratic defensively. Yeah,
listen, I think Sanchez gets a raw deal from Spurs fans. I just think the guy he needs coaching and he needs confidence. He had a spell last year where for 4 or 5 games he was our best defender. I know he's got the odd mistake in him, which is a concern. But again, he's another one that I'm hoping that Nuno will be able to coach and get inside his head and make him a better player. But that said, I think it likely will be Sanchez and Dier purely because they've had a run of games together now in pre-season, and it just makes sense to stick with it right now. And then obviously as Romero gets fitter, then he'll be integrated into the side. Just maybe not against City. You know. I think the following week we play Watford. Maybe bring him in for that. Yeah.
What I would say actually on Sanchez, Vass, is that when he was next to Vertonghen for that season, he was, he looked impeccable, and I thought, you know what, he's actually going to become a real decent defender. Looked organised, solid, commanding at times. I just think, with what's happened with Tottenham, of course, we had one of the best pairings we ever had during my lifetime in Alderweireld and Vertonghen, and it's so hard. You don't actually sometimes you take it for granted having that good of a centre-back pairing to try and find another telepathic partnership.
Yeah, it's hard to live up to.
For a while.
I think the thing with Sanchez is he makes the same mistake.
Yeah,
he makes 2 of the same mistakes all the time.
Agreed.
He gets turned by a little man. And then he also where they spin in behind him, and then he also gets bullied at certain points. And it's the same. It's the same. It's like the same thing.
Yeah,
and it's like and that's the frustrating bit with him, because you look at him, he's massive, big, strong, fast, and then he makes the same mistakes, and you're like, you need to, learn from that.
He gets sucked into the ball sometimes, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about Romero is, I agree with what everybody's saying. And then I just sort of think, well, if he's as good as he's meant to be and he's made out to be, and he is that good, and everyone's saying he's amazing, why would you not just chuck him in?
Yeah.
Why would you? Why would you? He's been training.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's he played at the Copa. He can obviously play at the Copa America. So
he won't be that unfit.
No.
He had a couple of weeks off.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of Romero, but the bits that I have heard is that he can be a little rash and give away free kicks around the penalty area and things like that. So maybe
good time to tell us about after we've got him. I'm looking forward to Sunday now. I can't wait now.
I mean, we've got Sanchez and Dier who do that as well. Dier does it in the box, Vaz. He does it in the box, not in and around.
As long as it's outside, Vaz. Probably 60 yards back the other way. That's absolutely fine. Jace, the only thing I would say, Jace, is even with Dier, and with Dier, there's actually times where, I mean, for example, Carabao Cup final, he was brilliant that game. It was phenomenal. But the thing with Dier is it's one moment of isolated madness over the course of 90 minutes. And it's just so bizarre because as a whole, it doesn't look too bad. But the problem with Dier for me is that you just can't be in a situation where you have that one erratic error in your game every week. You can't rely on someone like that. You can't, and for all the 89 minutes of good stuff, the 1 minute, it's pointless having him if he's going to do that.
Well, we have that right across our back line. We have it with Spurs can play well and then do a ridiculous foul that gives a penalty away. The left back, that gets away with murder as Spurs fans because they're so obsessed with how he charges forward with pace. But you want to look at him defensively. Look how many rash challenges he makes. Look at the own goal of complete lunacy against Aston Villa. Look how often Reguilon does it. I mean, we see the recovery run that he made against Chelsea comes up, but he cost us a goal that night against Chelsea on his debut with a rash challenge and things. So, Reguilon does it, Dier does it, Sanchez does it, Aurier does it.
Maybe it's just part of being a defender, Jace.
Isn't it? It is. And Hugo can even come out and have his rash moment.
Yeah.
So,
I think the thing about our defence, though, is that under Mourinho, we sat deep. So we defended more than normal. So
there's more opportunities to make a stupid challenge.
Yeah. Whereas actually under Pochettino, when we were on the front foot and we dominated game and we bossed games, the defence wasn't under pressure as much. I mean, Dier is an interesting one. Again, he came in at centre back when our defence was at its most fragile, which is now, and it's most disruptive because we had a completely settled squad. And I do look at Dier and I think, in the same way that Faz made the point about Sanchez, if he had a very good partner next to him who copied what he did, or was like the opposite of what he did, fast, could get around, and so on, then maybe that might help him. Because I think he is a leader. I think he's got a good attitude. He fights and so on. It's just those lapses of concentration.
Guys, moving on to the midfield. Again, this is an interesting one because, for example, one of the Skipp we saw, I think it was towards the end of July, I saw the rumours being linked with a move to Newcastle on loan. I just thought, are we in that position where we can start to offload midfielders, bearing in mind the lack of fitness for Ndombele and the Celso? And to be fair to Skipp, it will be a big step up for him this season. I've got no doubt, from the Championship to the Premier League and, for the level of where Spurs fans want their midfielders to be, it is going to be a big step up. So, Jace, is Oliver Skipp a player that you would actually be putting in your 11 for the game of the weekend against City?
I think
with everyone fit, you reckon?
I think he will start, but I have my concerns about him. He's so hyped now, Oliver Skipp, because of his year at Norwich. But this is a young kid coming into the Premier League. He looks to be a better player than Winks does now, but I don't see him as a better player than Winks was at that stage. And that's the thing. If we judge him on Harry Winks' first year, where we were talking about him being Winksiesta and dominating against Real Madrid and things, and then you see how it's tailed off. I think, at the moment, I think that there's so much goodwill to Oliver Skipp that when he does something good, we'll absolutely rave about it, and we'll perhaps turn a blind eye to the mistakes. But at some stage in the season, that flips when the mistakes can't start costing you, and you start to think, hold on a minute, yeah, he can do this, he can do it, but he's not doing this and he's not doing that. So I think the jury's out on Oliver Skipp. By all means, I'm not writing him off or casting any, I'm not talking badly of Oliver Skipp. It's just there's a lot to prove for any young player. I've said it with Japhet Tanganga and things. Yeah. And there will be mistakes that Oliver Skipp makes. So let's calm down a little bit of projecting Oliver Skipp as this wonderful midfield player. Yeah, let's let him grow into it. I think Højbjerg alongside him is a good one. And that's another reason why I worry about Ndombele, because I think he'll need two good players alongside him to talk him through games and to, not make those rash challenges himself. And he'll need proper leadership around him. And there's lots of hopes for him, but I'm not ready to quite acclaim him as this wonderful talent just yet.
Yeah, I mean, where are you on this? Would you be putting Oliver Skipp in your team, or would you be more favouring, an Ndombele, even though he's not played a minute so far? The Celso, who would be your midfield pairing for that game in City in that middle of that midfield?
Yeah, I'd pair Skipp and Højbjerg. I wouldn't have any qualms about that. I think Skipp was trusted by Poch a couple of seasons back, and he made a few appearances. I think that the loan at Norwich only served him well to improve his confidence, his physique, and his play on the ball. So, listen, Norwich are a Premier League team now, but they may very well have been in the Championship, but they bossed it so much. They were as good as a Premier League team halfway through that season. So, not to say they might not go back down again, obviously, but I wouldn't have a problem playing Skipp on Sunday. No.
Okay, Ads has come over to you. Let's discuss about Spurs' forward options. I mean, we would imagine we're going to see Lucas, Bergwijn, Son in the line, Dele potentially in the team. Anything there you disagree with? Do you think that's? I mean, if I read you out, maybe Spurs' probable team, probably we may say Lloris in goal, Tanganga, Sanchez, Dier, Reguilon, Lo Celso, Højbjerg, Lucas, Dele, Bergwijn, Son. Would you disagree with any of those players in there?
Yeah, I think it will be those players. It doesn't overly excite me. I think if we're all being honest, when we had a really good team, Moura and Bergwijn would be subs. Now, I know Moura actually had a great end to the season. He had some great periods. I'm not sure about his consistency. And Bergwijn, I can't quite work out either. It doesn't really create anything.
Is it just the case with Bergwijn, Ads? Do you not think he's just been under Mourinho?
Yeah.
Very much shackled.
Yeah, it might be.
And almost turned into a much more defensive player, where when we bought him, I thought it was all about the attacking prowess, let him rip really at teams where, he was asked to play a lot more of a more defensive role. I mean, we've got a comment in here from Sean Snow. He says, Gil on the bench. Would that be what you'd expect? Obviously, he's not had any preseason with Tottenham. He's just come back from the Olympics. So, him on the bench, we reckon, our new summer signing?
Yeah. He'll definitely be on the bench. I mean, Nuno's pretty much. Was that to me or to Jason? Sorry, my thing correct.
That was to you, Ed. That was to you. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I think he'll. Brian will be on the bench. I think Nuno's pretty much said he's young. He's going to be the type of guy that comes on a bit like how we probably used Traore. I think for like those last 20 minutes, 30 minutes for that pace and direct play. I think, Jason, why are you holding your head? Arsenal have lost.
No, Traore, please. I get nightmares.
No, I said that type of play that he used to bring on. I'm not quite sure on formation. I think it's going to be a sort of 4-3-3, but I don't quite know how 4-3-3 works with Skipp and Højbjerg, unless Højbjerg gets a slightly more advanced role in the same way that he did have for Denmark.
I'll be honest, it isn't the most. I think, like Vass said, it's not the most. One of you guys said it's not the most. I think you said, Ads, it's not the most attractive team on paper. Yeah. It's not. I mean, having a home game where it's Skipp and Højbjerg as your two midfield. I mean, of course, I know you're going to probably have Lucas Moura and Bergwijn and Son in there. Definitely a need to do more business, isn't there? I mean, Jace, what do you think team-wise? Is that roughly what you expect? Any other surprises apart from what we've already mentioned so far?
I think it's more or less what I think Dele rather than Gio starts in midfield, but and then you got Bergwijn more, and I think that's what it'll be. That's the first game. The disappointment, I suppose, is that here we are, first day of the season, and that will mean there's not a single new player in the team. And you'd like to have one or two summer signings up and ready to go now, but we haven't. We just have to get Gil's an interesting one because he certainly should be up to match fitness already, having been at the Olympics playing. It's not like he's coming back off a 3 or 4 week break. So, he'll be the option off the bench. But like I say, I think Kane comes off the bench and the headlines are there for Kane to grab the goal that decides the game.
Yeah, there you go. I think Sean's one of your fans there, Jace. Traore, one-dimensional pace only.
I wasn't saying that we should want. I know you're not. My point was merely.
Yes, you were.
I know you're not.
He used to bring him on for 20 minutes, half an hour, didn't he?
I think
that's where we'll see Gil or Hill, whatever his name is, I think that's where we'll see him used.
Yeah.
Right, guys. I think it's that time then to put our nails to the mask and trying to predict the score for this. And I know it's quite a dangerous game when we do this. So let's start with you, Vass. just throw you in there.
You know how much I hate predictions, don't you?
I know, man. I know you absolutely hate predictions. I mean, okay, first I'm going to ask you, in terms of, do you reckon it'll be a real cautious approach from Tottenham? Will we come out the blocks flying? Or do you reckon it will be, one of those where we'll slowly build into the game? I mean, under Nuno, from watching his teams, there was an element of they like control of a game. I think it's fair to say that, quite disciplined. I know many were saying that they've got a defensive approach about them, but I would base that on the fact that the players that he's had available to him. You look at the players that he's got now, it's slightly different. Do you think he will start defensive against City because of the nature of the opposition?
I think we may start defensive, but we're not going to be sitting as deep as we've been accustomed to seeing Spurs sit that deep. I think we'll probably defend and look to counter, but we'd also be looking to win the ball higher up. So we'll be pressing more. So if we can win the ball in the right areas off of City, then I think we've got enough pace up front to counter and to hurt them. So I'm optimistic from that point of view. In terms of prediction, 2-1 Spurs.
2-1 Spurs. Let's come around to you next, Ads. A similar question I want to ask you. So around to you, Ads. Similar question to ask you. What do you think in terms of our approach will be? Will we be standoffish? Will we allow City to have the ball, command of the ball? Because I think when you look at the wins we've had at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against City, it has been City having the majority of possession. We've broken the counter-attack and have got the victories. Do you see that being similar, or do you think we will have a bit more of a front hold because it is Nuno's first game? We want to impose, hopefully, his philosophy into Spurs fans. He wants to show them that he does want to play, an attacking brand of football.
I think as good as Man City are, there is a formula to beat them, and we've seen that. One is to sit, contain, and counter, and the other one is to, a bit like how Liverpool beat them quite aggressively the last couple of years, where they were really aggressive with them. I don't think we can do the second one. I don't think we're good enough to do that. I think there will be an element of containing. But I don't think it will be like a Mourinho containing where we sit on the edge of the box. I think we will press them and hunt them, but I think we'll be. Chris is very optimistic. I don't think we'll be really cagey. I think we will press them and we will try and get at them, but I think we'll be cautious.
Jace, come on. It's a casting vote. You. What do you reckon we're going to see? Are we going to see a more disciplined approach, defensive approach, or will we be seeing Nuno imposing a philosophy on Spurs where it is an attacking brand of football, which Paratici has been one of the reasons why obviously he's here. He's here to play, a brand of football that suits the narrative at Spurs. What we asked for on that statement, I think from Daniel Levy was we're going back to, was it the DNA? The DNA. Yeah. I mean, God, I hate that word DNA, especially with Tottenham. I wouldn't mind the DNA if it was the last 15 years of winning trophies, but it hasn't been. What are we expecting, Jace?
I think we'll be cautious, but as Vass says, I don't think we'll be Mourinho-esque. I don't think it'll be a bus parking session. But I think, my philosophy, I think City is seriously undercooked, and I think it is a chance to get. I know what Adam says. Are we good enough to get a normal City? We're not. We're near good enough to go toe to toe with Kevin De Bruyne and Raheem Sterling and Gundogan and all that in full flow. But they are not that Manchester City right at this second. So I think if you can get Manchester City, I think we'll have more fluidity in our movement up front than they will, just because of the nature of playing them on day one after a big international season. So I think that the opportunity is there to be really forceful in the game, and I hope that's the way we go. And if we do that, I'm sure we have a great chance against them.
Guys, we shall wait to see. Let me say my thanks to a wonderful panel. I've tried to find a most fair, balanced panel out there to start off. I say the last one on Spurs on YouTube here. Let me say my great thanks again to Vasconi over at the Tottenham podcast. Got to check that out. Joe, it is one of the first podcasts to drop. I think it even beats us coming out, which I thought we're trying to be first. But
We used to beat you by a lot, but you started coming back at us, mate.
We're slowly. Do you know what it is? I've slowly started to come alive again now since the baby's sleeping more. So I'm slowly getting there now. I'm slowly getting there.
I know.
Honestly,
go back to looking after the baby. I will just say, Nikki Wallace has been firing a load of questions at us, and he or she wants something to listen to at 4 a.m. because she's listened to the Last Word on Spurs now. Or he. So go find
listen to it again. Listen to it again.
Well, yeah, there's always that. Or go back and find last week's Dr. Tottenham. You'll enjoy.
There you go. Definitely. That's just a reminder. How can we find Dr. Tottenham?
Anywhere, mate. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. We're on YouTube as well. So yeah, wherever you look for Dr. Tottenham podcast, we're there. Thank you very much.
No, pleasure. Just to answer Mikhail's question, yes, this is coming out as an episode on Spotify. All our shows that we do on YouTube are coming out on audio as well. So to answer your question, and yeah, I agree with Adam, what you said there. Go and listen back to it again. Honestly, go and listen back to it again and subscribe whilst you're here as well. Ads, it's been a pleasure having you on. It's difficult talking about certain subjects with Tottenham this summer. Obviously, one being Kane, but always a pleasure having you on. We look forward to having you back on throughout the season.
Cheers, Ricky. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it. It's good.
Oh, always good, mate. Always good talking things Tottenham. And it's nice seeing Jason, like I say, now fully fledged, no more Mourinho to worry about, who can hopefully try and enjoy his football again. Jace, what's the chances?
Well, I've got an iPhone 12 here, which has got a nice big screen, but I still can't find Arsenal on the table at it. So
you've got to keep scrolling, Jace. Keep scrolling.
Keep scrolling down.
iPhone 18 to come out so I can see where they are in the league.
Oh my God!
And the club that changed their name from Woolwich to Arsenal, so they'd be up the top on the alphabetical list. They're back in the W section now. So keep them down there, boy. Keep them down there. And they got Chelsea and Man City next, haven't they?
Have they?
I think, yeah.
Man City next.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely jubbly.
The reason why I'm not getting carried away, Jace. I mean, our start to the season as well. It's a tricky one, but Joel, it would be great, wouldn't it, if we can go on a high. Nuno's first game in charge to get that win. That would give everybody such a boost in the camp. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. Like I say, can I say a massive thank you to everyone that's been listening to us on YouTube. If you haven't already, if you're liking our content, please subscribe. Every subscriber, like I say, gets this show out even further, guys. Thank you so much. Most importantly, above all, keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on, you Spurs.